Welcome to Mythical Creatures podcast. When it comes to folklore, we are still on folklore that is surrounding in like Sweden, and today we are gonna talk about. We are saying it like Vittra, but I found on English that can also be called rural enigma. Never heard that before, but I found it on the internet, so I will say take it with a little bit of salt because I'm not sure if that's what you will use on English, but I assume it is, or it wouldn't stand in all the information. But in case you look it up yourself and you don't find it, try to just type the Swedish way and you will find information about it, no doubt. So, this is actually a creature that I learned very, very young through a certain author, actually. She was very famous in Sweden. She is no longer among the living, sadly, but she was very, very big when I was younger. She made a lot of amazing books, and she also really inspired kids to just be kids. Like, I absolutely loved her, and because of her books, I was very much for being in the forest as young, because it was a lot of like adventure in forest or landscapes and stuff like that. So the reason to why I learned about the ruler enigmas um, is because she has this Vittra in her story. So basically, to describe them, you can see on the picture that's how she showed us the mythical creature, but it's a human-like being, so it has like some human body forms. Though if you look like really, really back, uh, you can actually see that even Norway and Finland also have this folklore connected to this being, and I found it quite possible because of the stories that she was typing was also famous in those countries. I don't know about Denmark. I didn't find anything about if they know anything about this author. If it's anybody in Denmark actually watching this, do let me know if you know who Astrid Lindgren is. Uh, would be very fun to know if you guys know what it is. So, this mythical being is a human-like form and lives around in the northern part of Sweden. But as I said before, it's a little bit in Norway and Finland as well. According to the stories in the folklore information, not from her story, they actually lived underground in rural areas. And you would be very, very lucky to catch them because, according to folklore, they were called the invisible because you could not see it with the human eye, but apparently they lived like humans. So they had like their own kind of farm life going on, but it was underground. It's really interesting to me. So they usually lived very close to humans, um, but they were usually around the parts where humans were not 24/7, if that makes sense. Like maybe they lived there during the summer, but during the winter they moved to like a warmer location. Then it said that they would be more open, more around, basically go in hiding again when people came back. I just used the winter time as a example, but it doesn't say which part of the season that they were active specifically. And they even believed that they had their own cows, which was not like normal cows, if I understood right. They were more their kind of cows. And it doesn't really say much about it, but they were just different somehow. And oh, and their cows could only milk like a bucket full, and that was it. Like they could never like fill over the bucket. So this is like a little bit of a weird folklore in itself, but it's still pretty amazing. So if you look at the picture from her book that you can see in the background behind my VTuber, it's kind of how she saw them. But they could like fly, and they did have like human body and more of a bird face. But if you look at the folklore that people believed back in the days, they should look more or like humans. So it was really hard to separate them from humans. So that's how they camouflaged, I guess. Not really sure about that. That's my speculations. What they believed, because they basically looks like human, they dress like humans, and it was a little bit different from other folklore because these people was undead. I think that's what they mean. Give me a sec. I will double check so I'm not lying to you guys. Um, yeah, they are mortals. Like, so kind of undead. Like, they are mortals. Like, they can't die. And this brings kind of a very scary feeling to it if you think about it, because they just live on the ground according to this folklore. Um, but it's not in the same parallel universe. So basically, that's why we can't see them. And I just think this is one of the more weird ones, because if people believed that these creatures exist, it was still very fascinated to me that according to them it's not visible to the human eye, so they can't be seen, but they still believe that it was human-like creatures that lived and dressed like a human, but they couldn't die, living underground, like very close to them, having their own cows that could only fill up to the brim and never more than that, and that they were basically just living in another universe, not in the same one as themselves. I found this information a bit odd, but I can also understand that back in the days they believed in a lot of different kind of folklore, but usually kinda a little bit funny, because usually I see like that it can make sense. You know, like Necken I talked about last week, he was sitting, and playing naked on a rock, and sometimes he was also dressed up. But he could absolutely be naked, but he could also be dressed in like gray, like broken clothes, kind of with like hoodie and everything, so you're a little bit covered, and sitting and playing next to the riverbanks of Sweden. That makes a little bit sense because they could have just seen a man sitting naked playing the violin, and then they start to believe in it. Because I'm pretty sure people could be out of their minds like they can be well, in our real time. I don't think um, that it's not gonna exist anyone in that time that didn't enjoy to like sit naked and bath naked. I'm pretty sure that was something that happened already at that time. So I can still see that being like somebody saw it and gossip started. But when it comes to the rural enigmas, I actually have so many questions how this folklore actually built up and people started to believe in these creatures. Though I still think that it's something that is very interesting. It really shows how we as human build up beliefs in these mythical beings, and we create the life surrounding these creatures. Anyways, this is everything I have about this mythical creature for this week. Next week, I'm not really sure what we are gonna come with, so I'm gonna have it be a surprise. But I can't wait to come with the next one. If you guys have any questions about this uh, author, like her books or her like films, her story in general, you can really find a lot of information about her on the internet. She was very famous when she was alive. I wish you guys a very good day.